I think overall we really rely on the relationships between other post-secondaries. Kirsty and I are members of OACUSA. We share information for environmental scanning, policy development, really to get the feel for trends in data. So we collect information that way. Our comms team is one of our biggest partners, our internal comms team. They're doing the social media listening and really seeing kind of when our name is mentioned over social media. Community partners and even some of our vendors like International SOS give us information about international events that could have local implications. So we're really aggregating all this information to kind of look at what risks could exist and if there's any potential to local implications like our roadways, missing persons, and as I said, any trends that we could see kind of resulting in incidences on our own campuses or for our partners. So we use it, I'd say every day, and it really helps inform a lot of our decision making.
Very similar to what Danelle said, our partnership with OACUSA, some social media monitoring or open web sources. One key area that's a little different for post-secondaries being public institutions, we really have to be mindful of the governing privacy legislations. So new regulations and legislation is coming at us all the time. Last year, Bill 194 was implemented for us. And everything that we have is FOI-able. So we have to be very mindful of what we are using as part of our investigations, how we're gathering, and that it's documented on when, why, and how we got this information, because I'm sure there's going to be more legislation coming at us as public institutions and how we're using this information.
We leverage this in several different ways, but the first and foremost is just community partnerships. So we partner with SHIELD and local police services in the communities that we serve, also local BIAs, to make sure that we're collecting as much information as possible and then disseminating that outward towards our service managers and directors to share when that's necessary. We find that it's useful for pre-incident indicators, so to give us a little bit of a hint or a clue that something might be happening. And lately it's been mainly to do with public demonstrations and as we all know, the climate post-COVID, that's been happening at a larger scale and also tied in with some mental health challenges that we've been facing. So just having our finger on the pulse to some degree, and a huge part just to reflect what Danielle said as well is leveraging relationships that we have through networking. So even events that you've put on has helped us build better partnerships with different people in the industry that have allowed us to keep open lines of communication and share information.
When we kind of think through the pandemic and we think about our ability to kind of harness and integrate both video and access control at the same time to really add to our ability to be agile, I see that as really being things that most academic institutions will move towards. Because we already have very robust video and access control systems, emergency notification systems. We're trying to layer our communication, so everything that most people are familiar with, like overhead messaging, to using a safety app. Our website, we have all these layers, the Cisco phones, anything connected to the desktop or laptop that can be broadcasted to really ensure that we're communicating with our diverse group of community members. But by the same token, as I said, I think there will be that move towards further integration of technologies so that we can, if you are short-staffed or if you need to be agile 24/7, you can open doors for people by looking at who's there through your video. So I think we'll definitely be moving that way in the next couple of years.
I think the biggest thing that we've done is we released a web dispatch last year, so web-based, and it allows us to integrate a lot more seamlessly with other technologies. So we do have a public API that's available, and what we've been doing with that is we've been working through some integrations that have been based on customer feedback. So the one that we launched very recently was an integration with Evolve. So we have an integration with Evolve weapons detection that will alert our dispatchers whenever something's detected at that checkpoint. And then we've been basically, again, because it's a fairly new dispatch that we've released, we're working through we've rank ordered the integrations that we need to tackle. So things that are on their video management systems, alarm systems, panic systems, duress systems, real-time locationing. So those are the type of things that we're integrating right now, so that for the dispatchers, and again, just thinking back to workflow, we're just minimizing the number of screens that they have to be monitoring and the amount of systems that they have to be pulling information from. Just kind of bring everything into one place.
Yeah, and so the biggest way that we're able to leverage some of this information is through our training. So we're always looking at creating customized and updated training that reflects the current market and the need. So looking at different tools that are in the marketplace and then trying to create useful, easy to learn training for our employees to run with the ball with. In addition to that, and it ties in very closely, is we're looking at leveraging AI and other technologies to tie in our policies and our training. So a lot of times when we make an adjustment to our training, we then have to manually go back into our policies and collect information and bounce it off and stress test it against our training and our policies. This has been helpful for us to keep it all in one location and flag when there's changes that are needed, so that we're always moving forward with adjustments to policy and training.
A couple of things that we do with our product is using our stats and analytics to just help with some of that trend analysis, so understanding where things are happening, understanding kind of the peak times where these things would occur. But in terms of actual response itself, so if there were to be something that transpired at one of these events, our mobile application just makes it easier for the staff to actually do that documentation while they're out in the field, and get photos in real time. And let's say we're taking a witness statement, you can scan a piece of ID, and that's going to populate a contact. So just streamlining those workflows for the officer is what we're really trying to do to make an impact in those type of scenarios.
For us, it's really important for us to partner with our contract security provider, which happens to be Paragon, and we do all our training together. And so they're bringing to us the community training, what they see at other potential client sites, what they see in the industry, and we're bringing the college focused training. So mental health first aid, all our guards have that training. We also provide them with safe talk suicide awareness training, because like most security professionals, they're there at night when nobody else is, and usually that's when everything happens. And it does take a while to get a hold of somebody when you need to, escalate it. So, but they're the first response. So they need to be comfortable and confident enough of how to respond to those types of situations, especially if they're going into residence. They know how to respond to those. Sexual and gender-based violence awareness training, how to respond to those, specifically when we're dealing with the student population at our residence. It's just, for us, it's not new training, but it's making sure that we're practicing it all the time. So doing like those weekly scenario training, our guards know what they need to do, but like any situation, sometimes you'll freeze a bit if you haven't practiced it for a while. So continually practicing those types of situations, from fire alarms to full evacuations to lockdown drills, and then also doing those larger scale ones with the full college community, so they understand if a situation happens what they need to do as well. And the security team really is those advocates to show that we're the leaders in these emergency situations or crisis situations, and so that people feel comfortable that they're taking the lead when something happens that they're not quite familiar with or used to, but they have the confidence in the team that they know what they're doing. So that really, those partnerships, and we're continuing to review the scenarios and even desktop kind of training when you're on shift. It's just keeping it fresh in their mind.
We learn from each other, right? Like that's what's so great about our very tight-knit campus security community. But I really like what you touched on about that consistency in practice, but also kind of evolving your training over time as we are kind of responding to more complex cases. So we start with some requirements that we think through about having guards trained in prior to them arriving to site. So there's consistency in some of the more basic training, but as they kind of move forward, to Kirsty's point about responding to disclosures of sexual violence, information on mental health awareness, gender-based violence, anti-racism, de-escalation strategies. And what I will say too, I just made a note about the mental health and de-escalation training. We really have seen, probably a 300% increase in the last couple of years in the number of calls we need for support for people that are having a mental health crisis. And we really want to make sure that our guarding staff and our administrative staff, but the guarding staff in particular, who might be responding to calls at residence or at hours when the rest of the administrative staff isn't there, are very, they kind of have almost like a Rolodex. I don't know if I can still use that word if people still know what a Rolodex is, but of both internal and external resources, right? So that there are more nuanced community resources they can point people to. We also work really closely with our counseling team, and they actually trained our entire guarding staff, our supervisors, our guarding staff, administrative team on mental health response. So I think really partnering with some of the teams that you have in-house to get on the same page and to forge those connections also means that the guarding staff is comfortable approaching them when they are there during the day, should they have any questions or there's a situation that might require their support as well. So I think it's really thinking through the ways we can kind of add to our the guarding and our administrative staff's training repertoire over time, and just really kind of evolving with the trends.
I was a guard for many years before I moved into a management position, working downtown in office towers in the early 2000s. As you might imagine, you're dealing with a high rate of incidents and you're dealing with mental health crises on a daily basis. But beyond that, and again, in a post-COVID world, we're seeing spikes of these incidents. And we have our guards looking at these scenarios more as generally more as a external support to people in crisis. And one of the pieces that I'm most proud of since being in this role was developing a partnership with CAMH to come in and teach mental health awareness to our employees, and then integrating that into our customer service course and into our mental health awareness course. And the biggest advantage to partnering with third-party experts is that they were able to shine a light on a gap that we didn't see and have since corrected. And so that gap was internal regulation. When you're entering into a situation, again, we're looking at it as how can I help this person or how can I de-escalate this individual? But we're not really looking at how am I entering this scenario? And this was really the main motivator for this partnership, was seeing very good guards deal with many situations over and over and over again. But then there would be a one-off where that guard acted less than professional. And we started questioning ourselves, how can we support our employees here? This person, this one example is the exception. They're clearly fantastic employees, but we can't allow this to continue. And we realized through this partnership with CAMH that really it was that internal regulation piece. It's how thin are your emotions entering that situation? And again, so really a lot of this kudos goes back to our partnerships and our relationships with post-secondary institutions. It really taught us a lot on the importance of education and training. We treat training as a core competency. Every employee coming into Paragon is receiving approximately 100 hours of training before they are receiving the site level training. That's unlike any of our competitors. And this is something that we really at our core believe is necessary for people to be successful. And obviously in an industry where there's high turnover rates, it becomes more and more challenging to resource this challenge because you're trying to get people upskilled very quickly, and there can be a bit of burnout when people are receiving a lot of information in a short period of time. But what we try to do as much as possible, and we work very closely with our partners on this, is make sure that we're identifying those key areas that are necessary immediately and then upskilling the rest as we go along. And so mental health awareness, naloxone training, all of these things are part of every employee's onboarding. We're not waiting for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months to get some of this training under their belt.